Let me inventory your graveyard. You don't have to tell me what's in it. I already know the shape. There's a gym membership from January that made it to March. A journal that has 14 passionate entries, followed by 40 blank pages. A morning routine that lasted 19 days and felt like it was changing your life until day 20, when it suddenly felt like nothing. A language app, a meditation habit, a side project, a diet. Each one started with fire, real fire, not fake enthusiasm. You meant it. You felt it. You woke up early for it. You told people about it. And each one died the same way. Not from failure, from boredom. Not a dramatic collapse. Not an injury or a crisis. A slow, quiet fade. The excitement leaked out. The progress became invisible. The thing that felt urgent and alive at week 2 felt repetitive and pointless at week 6. And somewhere in that gray zone between "this is changing me" and "I can't feel anything happening anymore," you made a quiet decision. Not even a decision, really. More like a drift. To stop. To try something else. Something that felt alive again. New fire. New start. Same graveyard. One headstone longer. You've been calling this a discipline problem, or a motivation problem, or a commitment problem. You've probably built an identity around it. I'm someone who starts things and doesn't finish them. That identity feels like a confession. It's actually a misdiagnosis. Because here's what nobody in the change industry tells you. The moment the excitement fades and the boredom arrives, that gray zone where it stops feeling like progress and starts feeling like repetition, is not the moment the change stopped working. It's the moment the change started installing. Your brain was moving the operation from the showroom to the warehouse, and you walked out of the store every single time, because you thought the showroom was the store. This video is a teardown. I'm going to open the machine that runs inside every attempt you've ever made to change, and show you 3 components nobody shows you because they're not photogenic, not exciting, and not sellable. How to tell the difference between the boredom that means "this is installing" and the boredom that means "this has stalled." A system for tracking progress that your feelings can't sabotage, and the architecture of every relapse you've ever had. The 4-stage blueprint that runs underneath every "I just stopped doing it" story, including the exact stage where the entire collapse can be disarmed with one question. 3 components, each one invisible, each one operating right now inside whatever change you're currently attempting or considering. The machine isn't broken. You just never got the manual. Your brain processes new behavior in 2 phases, and the transition between them is where every abandoned resolution goes to die. Phase 1. Conscious acquisition. Weeks 1 through 3. Everything is novel. The prefrontal cortex is processing each repetition as a new event, and novelty triggers dopamine. So the experience feels rewarding. The gym feels like transformation. But the reward isn't coming from results. It's coming from newness. You're not feeling change, you're feeling novelty. Phase 2. Automatic installation. Between week 3 and week 6, the brain begins transferring the behavior to the basal ganglia, the automatic execution system. Here's the catch. That transfer can only happen when the behavior stops triggering novelty signals. The brain will not automate something it's still treating as new. The boredom isn't a bug. It's the prerequisite. The brain needs the behavior to become boring before it will install it as a default. The one that made me take the machine apart wasn't a big change. It was flossing. My dentist told me I had early-stage gum recession. Start flossing daily or face grafts by 40. So I bought fancy floss, $6, mint coating. Week 1, flossed every night. Felt virtuous. Took a photo of the floss on my bathroom counter like I was documenting evidence of my own maturity. Week 2, still doing it, but the feeling was fading. Just string between teeth. Week 4, missed 3 nights. The floss migrated from counter to faucet to drawer. By week 6, I was telling myself, I should really start flossing again. Which is the sentence that proves you stopped. And here's what haunted me. 90 seconds. No barrier, no cost, nothing stopping me. And I couldn't keep it past the boredom threshold. The mechanism isn't about difficulty. It's about something happening during the boredom. So I took the machine apart. You know when phase 2 starts because your body tells you before your mind does. The morning you wake up and the thing you've been doing doesn't call to you. Not resistance, absence. Like reaching for a glass of water that isn't on the nightstand. The wanting left without telling you. In its place, gray momentum. Not forward, not back, just continuing. That gray momentum is the most misread signal in human behavior. It feels like the end of the story. It's actually the part where the narrator goes quiet so the audience can focus. And you've never heard this from the people selling you change because the self-improvement industry is a phase 1 delivery system. Books, apps, 30-day challenges, engineered to end before phase 2 begins, so you complete them feeling transformed and buy the next one when the feeling fades. The industry sells novelty replacement. A customer in phase 2 doesn't need the next product. So you're trapped between a brain that stops sending progress signals during installation and an industry that profits from you never surviving the transition. You need 3 things. A way to identify which phase you're in. A scoreboard that works when your feelings don't. And a map of the sequence your brain runs when it's about to convince you to quit. 3 tools from inside the machine. Here's the fork you've been missing. There are 2 types of boredom inside every change attempt, and they feel almost identical from the inside. Type 1. Progress boredom. The boredom of installation. The behavior has become repetitive because the brain is transferring it from conscious processing to automatic execution. The boredom is the progress, like a file being compressed and moved to permanent storage. The screen is blank, but the operation is running. Keep going, change nothing. Type 2. Stagnation boredom. The boredom of a method that stopped producing adaptation. The behavior is repetitive, but the brain isn't transferring it. The stimulus is so predictable the brain has stopped processing it as meaningful input. It's not being installed. It's being ignored. Modify the method. Not the goal, the approach. Same boredom. Opposite diagnoses. Opposite prescriptions. And most people respond to both with a third option that fits neither. Abandon everything and start something new. The next time you're in the gray zone, that flat, is this even doing anything? Territory. Run 4 questions. They take 90 seconds. Am I executing better than I was 3 weeks ago, even slightly? Not, do I feel better? Am I executing the behavior with less friction, fewer errors, or less conscious effort? If yes, progress boredom. The execution improvement is the installation footprint. Your body is automating the behavior even though your mind feels nothing. If the execution quality is identical to 3 weeks ago, same friction, same errors, same effort. Stagnation. The brain isn't encoding, it's coasting. If I skip today, would I notice a gap tomorrow? Or relief? Be honest. If missing a day creates a subtle sense of something missing, not guilt, an actual gap in the day's texture, the behavior is integrating into your default architecture. If skipping produces pure relief with 0 gap, the behavior hasn't begun integrating. It's still sitting in the showroom, being held there by willpower alone. 2 more. And the third one is the one that usually catches people off guard. Has the boredom quality changed since it started? Progress boredom evolves. It starts as restless frustration and gradually shifts to quiet neutrality. That evolution from restless to neutral is the installation completing. Stagnation boredom stays static. Same restless frustration at week 4 as week 8. Flatline tedium with no evolution. Am I bored with the behavior or bored with the results? If the behavior itself feels boring but you're not fixated on outcomes, you're just doing the thing. That's the installation signature. If you're bored because you're obsessing over results that aren't appearing, you're not bored with the behavior, you're frustrated with the scoreboard. And that's a measurement problem, not a boredom problem. Which brings us to tool number 2. Here's why Phase 2 feels like failure even when it's the most productive phase of the entire process. During Phase 1, you had a built-in scoreboard. Motivation, excitement, the feeling of newness. All of it was evidence. Then Phase 2 started and that scoreboard went dark. Not to zero. Dark. Your brain did what brains do when information is absent. It invented a story. Nothing is happening. This stopped working. That narrative wasn't data. It was the brain filling a vacuum. And the story was wrong every time. But you had no counter data. So the story won. The invisible scoreboard has 3 metrics. None of them involve how you feel. All of them involve what you can observe. Metric 1. Friction reduction. Track the gap between "I should do the thing" and "I'm doing the thing." Not with a stopwatch, just note it. Week 2 of the gym. 45 minutes of internal negotiation before putting on shoes. Week 6. Shoes go on with a sigh but no debate. Week 10. Shoes are on before the thought fully forms. That's not motivation returning. That's the basal ganglia taking over initiation from the prefrontal cortex. 1 note per day. Friction level, 1 to 5. The number going down is the progress. Metric 2. Automaticity signals. Moments when the behavior happens, or almost happens, without a conscious decision. You catch yourself reaching for the journal before remembering it's a habit. You start the meditation app out of routine, not resolution. Each one is a data point. The behavior is migrating from things I have to make myself do to things I do. Track these. They happen so quietly your conscious mind won't register them as meaningful. Metric 3. Recovery speed. The most reliable Phase 2 metric. When you miss a day, and you will, how quickly do you resume? In Phase 1, a missed day spirals into guilt and abandonment. In late Phase 2, a missed day triggers mild discomfort and a return the next morning. If missing Monday means you're back Tuesday without drama, the installation is near complete. Track recovery time. Not the misses, the recoveries. 1 notebook, 3 columns, date, friction level, notes on automaticity or recovery events. That's the invisible scoreboard. Deliberately analog, no app, no gamification. Because those are Phase 1 tools designed to produce excitement. The scoreboard is boring on purpose. Because the thing it's measuring is boring on purpose. If this is clicking for you, hit subscribe. I'm not going to dress it up because you just learned what dressing it up is for. Tell me about the last time you quit a change. You'll use one of these phrases. I just stopped doing it. I lost motivation. Life got in the way. I realized it wasn't for me. Each of these sounds like a reason. None of them are. They're the script from Stage 3 of a 4-stage sequence that ran underneath your awareness. The script's function is to make the collapse feel like a choice, because a choice is acceptable. A collapse means something went wrong. Your brain would rather you feel like a reasonable adult who made a decision than a person who got outplayed by an automatic sequence. So let me show you the sequence. Stage 1. Trigger. Thursday evening, low energy after a long day. Gym bag by the door. Alarm goes off. The trigger isn't the tiredness. It's the contrast between how you feel and how much effort the behavior requires. That mismatch activates the old pathway. Rest is the correct response to fatigue. Years of deep wiring versus 5 weeks of gym. Stage 2. Narrative. Within seconds, your brain generates a story. Not an emotion. A story. And it's always reasonable. 1 day off won't matter. I should listen to my body. I'll go tomorrow. I'll be more energized. The narrative never says, quit forever. It says, not today. And not today is a reasonable story. Self-compassionate even. It's also the skeleton key that opens the door for every subsequent not today, until not today becomes not anymore. The narrative is the most dangerous stage because it doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like wisdom. Stage 3. Permission. The narrative produces a physical release. Softening in the shoulders. Jaw unclenches. The tension between I should go and I don't want to go dissolves. Not because you resolved it, because the narrative dissolved the obligation. That relief, that's the old pathway celebrating. It won the territory dispute by writing a story that made losing feel like choosing. You felt that relief before. You know exactly what it feels like. And you probably called it listening to yourself. Stage 4. Collapse. Thursday becomes Friday becomes, I'll start again next week. Becomes the graveyard gaining another headstone. The whole sequence took less than 30 seconds. And it felt like a decision the entire time. The sequence is dismantleable at exactly one point. Stage 2. The narrative. The trigger is environmental. You can't control it. Permission is downstream. Once the story lands, the relief is automatic. Collapse is already the result. But the narrative requires something the other stages don't. Your participation. The brain generates the story, but you have to accept it as true. And that acceptance can be interrupted with one question. Is this a reason, or is this the script? That question doesn't require willpower. It requires only the recognition that a 4-stage sequence is running, and you're at stage 2. It creates a 3-second gap between the narrative and the permission. And in that gap, you can make an actual decision. Not the scripted one, a real one. Sometimes the honest answer is rest. Your body needs it. But when the answer is, this is the script, and you'll know, because the script always has that same reasonable tone, that same gentle permission, you can override it. Not with motivation, with recognition. Now step back. Think about how you learned to read as a child. Every word was an event. C-A-T. You sounded it out, the teacher smiled, your parents celebrated. Reading was exciting because every decoding triggered a reward. Then the words stopped being events. C-A-T was just cat. The excitement disappeared. But that moment, when reading became so boring you stopped noticing it, was the actual moment you learned to read. Phase 1. Exciting, conscious, temporary. Phase 2. Boring, automatic, permanent. The boredom didn't mean reading stopped working. It meant reading was installed. Every behavior change follows the same path. When you were learning to read, nobody asked you to stay excited about it. But when you try to change a habit at 28, you expect the excitement to last. And when it doesn't, you assume the change has failed. It hasn't. It's becoming automatic. The boring part is the part that sticks. You don't need a new thing to change. You probably need to finish installing the last one. If you made it to week 4, 5, 6 before the boredom drove you out, you were in phase 2. The wiring was partially laid, and you walked away from a half-finished installation that was further along than you realized. Starting where you left off isn't starting over. It's resuming with better instrumentation. 5 days, 1 action each. Day 1. Write down the last 3 changes you abandoned. For each, note when the boredom started and how long you lasted after. Most people quit 1 to 3 weeks after the excitement faded. Seeing that number makes the pattern undeniable. Day 2. Pick the one that still matters and run the boredom checkpoint. Was execution improving? Would skipping have felt like a gap or relief? Was the boredom evolving or static? Most people find at least one abandoned change was in progress boredom. Installing. They just didn't know. Day 3. Start the invisible scoreboard. Resume the behavior, just once. Note friction level, 1 to 5, and any automaticity signals. 1 entry. 1 data point. The scoreboard is live. Day 4. Write down the narrative that played the last time you quit. Word for word. It wasn't working. This wasn't for me. Then underneath, this is stage 2. Next time I hear it, I ask, is this a reason, or is this the script? Pattern priming. Preload the recognition so you catch it live. Day 5. The boring day. Do the behavior with zero enthusiasm. Just the action and the friction note. That flat, unremarkable day where you felt nothing. Most productive day of your entire change history. Because you did the thing knowing the boredom is the installation, and knowledge doesn't need motivation. The boring truth about people who actually change is that there's nothing interesting to report. Just a person who sat through the boredom long enough for their brain to finish the installation, and then woke up one morning and the thing they used to force themselves to do was just something they did. Not exciting. Just installed. And the reason you've never heard it that way is because nobody pays $29.99 for a book called Keep Going When It's Boring. But that's the book. Don't tell me you're starting something new. Tell me what you're resuming. I'm reopening the journal at page 15. I'm going back to the gym I quit 6 weeks ago. I'm reopening the language app at lesson 34. Name the page. Name the lesson. Because resuming a half-finished installation beats starting a new phase 1 every time. The wiring is still there. Be specific. Because specific is the opposite of the script. Subscribe for more content that tears open the machine behind human behavior. The mechanical version. The one that works.